For better or worse, London's landscape is forever changing. When the Great Fire of London swept through the city in 1666, it destroyed one of London's landmarks, St Paul's Cathedral. But its very destruction allowed creativity to flourish. The young architect Christopher Wren rebuilt the cathedral in 1708. Wren's masterpiece defined the era, and his work still dominates London's skyline. The place where it is best viewed today is from a bridge designed by a man whose work is now seen in cities around the world. He may be based in London, but his appeal and attitude is truly international. I caught up with Lord Norman Foster in Barcelona and began by asking him what the purpose of architecture is.
Since man came out of the cave, needed to be protected from the elements. And then it becomes apparent that the quality of that environment affects the quality of your life. So the other dimension, in that sense, it's about society, it's about civilization, it's about a social agenda. It also is about symbolism, it's about the things that you can't measure. How do you measure the quality of the light, a view, sunshine?
Winston Churchill once said, "We shape buildings and thereafter they shape us." Do you agree?
I agree totally. We were competing for a project, which we won as a competition for the New York Public Library. And it made me realize that I wouldn't have been at that meeting presenting ourselves if it wasn't for the role that the library played in my life when I was very, very young, early teens. That changed my life. It shaped me. Not the only factor, but in that community where I grew up, there's no way I would have gone to university if that perspective had not been opened up, in part by the library. And we're all influenced by our environment.
When you look at a building, what makes you feel happy and what makes you feel angry?
What makes me feel good is when the environment, if I use it in the broadest sense, has been taken seriously by everybody involved, and they've insisted on quality. And quality is not about money. It's about attitude. It's about the quality of the thinking. You go to Rockefeller Center, no, that's a public space. There's a place there. You go to Central Park, it's an extraordinary thing. You can't think of New York without Central Park. It's part of the infrastructure. Of course, there are iconic buildings, an overused word, but buildings which over time still command our respect and attention. And, they roll off the tongue. There's the Seagram building, there's the Chrysler building, the Empire State, and so on.
Does every building that you're involved with have to be memorable and or unique?
I don't think it has to be memorable. If you come to our studio, you'll see schools, and we can talk about the way those schools have changed the lives of the children in terms of their academic standards. You can measure that. You can measure it from the school they were in before. It's not just the architecture, it's also about the teaching.
How would you describe or characterise the age of architecture that we're in at the moment?
It's an age of rapid change, it's an age of rapid urbanization. It's an age of extraordinary opportunity, and over time, I'm sure that future generations will sit back and say, well, they did that well, they did that not so well. It's a time of dynamic change and many approaches, but also extraordinary opportunities through competition systems which didn't exist in the past.
Foster was chairman of the judges that gathered to choose the best building in the world.
Grafton architects from Ireland.
The Bocconi building in Italy was chosen because of what jurors described as its physical and conceptual density. One said it took the tough, rebarbative DNA of Milan and lifted its skirts. Either way, the team behind it had plenty to celebrate.
The scope and the ambition of the project gave us a real opportunity to make something special, to make something which would feel like a part of that city.
Now is the time for architecture to be much more a celebrating place and not just, if you like, churning out buildings that could be anywhere in the world. So it's about a certain kind of culture.
In simple terms, architects provide plans for buildings, and many believe that their role in society stops there. But during this show, we've learned that the key to the spirit of architecture is more complicated than that. It's about the power to shape our lives. Now, the sceptics amongst you might balk at that notion, so in this final part, let's give our leaders a chance to defend themselves.
We live in a world where it's commonly assumed that no one really knows what's beautiful or not. There's an idea that everything's a bit relative, and that if anybody comes along and says that's beautiful and that's ugly, they must be a snob. The best buildings help us to feel that life is worth living. They lift our spirits. They are an argument for keeping going with our troubled world.
I think a good architecture is a good concept with good emotion.
Architecture should serve mankind, mankind's need for shelter, for work. Unfortunately, it doesn't serve all men with the same generosity.
There's a kind of responsibility to make people have a good life.
The purpose of architecture exists in the very small, in your relationship to your house and your garden and your wife and your children, and creating a place around your life. So it's very personal and autobiographical.
It's about the quality of life. Do it well, we feel better.
Well, cultural sensitivity and social awareness are key themes in modern architecture, but it's a subject that continues to divide opinions strongly. Its critics claim it's populated by the highly pretentious. They see no great art or craft in creating places to live and work in. But I can't help think that there is far more to it than that. I don't believe it's too great an exaggeration to claim that architecture can bring pain and pleasure. It can impact on great swathes of society in much the same way as sport, music and art does. It is this power to change people's perceptions that, for me, properly defines the spirit of architecture. For more on this month's show, please visit our website at cnn.com/spirit.